a half hour out of your life to learn more about health and how to stay healthy and what lifetime care is all about. I start on time, I end on time, and there'll be some time for questions at the end. We're going to start out with this. What is most people's approach to lifetime care? What are some of the dogma and misconceptions out there that people have about taking care of themselves? Anybody? We're going to go through a bunch of them, but I want to hear what you guys have to say.
If you got good genes, it'll naturally follow you.
What?
If you got good genes, it'll naturally follow you.
Yeah, it's all genetic. Yeah, it's genetic, really. I mean, science is finding out that's not true at all now. And we'll especially talk about that in my talk down the road on longevity. So that's a great answer. You can't do anything about it because it's genetic. Anybody else?
I can worry about when I'm older. I don't need to if I'm young.
Yeah,
I don't need to
yeah.
worry about the stuff when I'm young.
Right, yeah, and look where we are now. You know, I never thought I'd be this old, you know, if you want to know the truth. So yeah, I'm invincible. So I'll just worry about it when I'm older. And why is that a bad strategy? You don't know why.
Because when you're older, your symptoms could be a whole lot worse than if you took care of yourself earlier.
Yeah, things generally start when you're younger, and they build slowly over time. And so even if you can't perceive what's happening, okay, you could be developing habits that are destroying your health when you're young. And then when you're older, you know, then you have problems, okay? So here's one of the ones that we're going to look at 4 misconceptions. If it doesn't hurt, it must not be a problem. So is this attitude a really good basis for sound health care? Okay, would you say, could I say this, would you agree with this? This is not only is this the attitude of most people in our country, but this is the attitude generally of modern medicine in many regards. There's no symptom. Why worry about it? Okay, now, to a certain degree, if they find cancer and you don't have symptoms, that's different. But most people, their attitude is, if it's not broke, we're not going to fix it. If I don't think it's broke, let's not fix it. That's a terrible basis for health care. So if your car doesn't have a seized engine, you don't change the oil, okay? That happened to me, by the way, when I was 16. It wasn't fun, okay? I was out in the middle of nowhere in West Texas when that happened. So we changed the oil because we want the car to run right. And as human beings, we want things to work right. We want things to work their best. But not everybody wants to pay the price for that. So, this is not as true as it used to be. But people make fun of other people who exercise regularly. You know, why are you taking all those vitamins? You know, what are you, some sort of health nut? I've actually been called that before. I go, yeah, I am. You know, what are you, a disease nut? I mean, you know? And with chiropractic care, you know, a lot of times they ask, haven't they fixed you yet? You still going back, even if you're free of pain? Well, we're designed from a blueprint that provides a template for good health, for vibrant health. And that, to the degree that we reflect that blueprint, is determined by how we treat our bodies. If subluxations are present, that blueprint is altered and you age faster, okay? It causes accelerated aging. We don't exercise today so we don't get a heart attack tomorrow. We exercise because it enhances our life. It even enhances the meals we eat. I feel better about eating because I exercise. We don't need to fix our brain today so we don't get a headache. We read because we know it keeps our brain sharp. Okay, that's an absolute fact. And so we do things because it actually brings us health. So lifetime care is a discussion a lot of people won't engage in, they don't talk about. I've been at church and I've heard people say, there's nothing that will make me give up my sugar. Really? You know, not cancer, not, you know, I don't want to give it up. I don't want to give up the way I eat. I take statins, so I'm good. I've actually heard a pastor say that to me once. You know, I take statins, so I'm good. Okay, so you guys are a minority that will even talk about this, that will engage in this discussion, and you don't respond just when there's a crisis. So here's important point number 2. Lifetime care is not an outcome, but it's a never-ending process that we must be consistently engaged in. So when are we going to be done exercising? Is there a point when we stop that? We go, you know, I had enough. Okay, I'm not going to do it anymore. You know, we may change the way we exercise, but what about eating the right food? I mean, is it okay to start eating like junk food after 50? Yeah, I'm 50 years old, so I'm going to live off of Burger King. Brushing our teeth. When are we going to be done brushing our teeth? When are we going to be done praying? We stop praying at 60. Yeah, I said all the prayers I need to pray. I'm good. You know, no. Anything that applies to the virtue of existence is a process. The way we take care of ourselves, lifetime care is a process. It's not an end result. And these are processes that we are engaged in that will never be done with. So some people say, you know, they start chiropractic care that you have to go for the rest of your life. No, you don't. You don't have to go for the rest. You can stop any time. But why do people continue to go even if they don't have pain? I'm going to ask you that. Why do they do that? Why would somebody do that? I get adjusted every week. I don't have any pain. You know, I don't deal with pain. Why is that?
I think preventative care.
Yeah, we want to prevent things from happening. We want to keep our spine and nervous system as healthy as we can. And you don't have, I mean, there's people that don't see a chiropractor at all. I know people like that. They're not very healthy. They have problems, okay? And so we become more informed, we become more aware of how we feel. And we begin to experience more health and vitality rather than just a reduction in pain. So here's a story that I'll just tell you about. This is a young lady that came into my office. I think she's about 21 at the time. She'd been in a auto accident. I took care of her for 3 months. She's done. I released her. In the last day of care, last day when I released her, she said, you know, I'm going to ask you a question. She said, I don't know if this is a coincidence, but before I came to see you, before I had this auto accident, I was having really, really painful periods and menstrual cramps. And she says, since I've come here and you've adjusted me for these 3 months, that's all gone now. Is there any connection there? What do you think? Yeah, I would say there's a pretty big connection, okay? Why? What would the connection be? Anybody? What would that connection be?
There's some stuff wrong with our nerves in the bottom of the spine that you're probably adjusting.
Yeah, exactly. There's nerves that go to the ovaries, the fallopian tubes, and the uterus. And when we adjust the spine, we're adjusting the nerves that go to we're freeing up the nerve supply that goes to that area. So this is one reason that insurance companies won't pay for wellness. With sickness, they can make an equation regarding the average rate of time somebody should have their symptoms reduced or have minimal pain, even though every human being is different, okay? Wellness is infinite. So insurance companies, they don't like wellness because they really can't define it or measure it, or they don't really want to measure it. You can measure it. So how would we measure wellness? Anybody? That's kind of a hard question, actually. How about functional testing? Like our grip strength gets better, range of motion gets better. There's another test which I don't do, used to do in my office. I don't have the machine anymore. Heart rate variability. Probably the best test for wellness that there is. It's called heart rate variability. So there's ways that you can measure that. In fact, insurance companies ought to require that all physicians have a heart rate variability machine in their office, and they report out to the insurance company regularly about people's heart rate variability. And that would be a very good way to measure wellness. So I want to talk about ligaments for a second. What are they? What do ligaments do? Anybody heard of a ligament? Okay. What do they do?
I'd say it's like the rubber band to your structure of your body.
Okay, in which way?
It helps keep your body from overextending, I guess, is the best
Okay.
way I could say it.
So ligaments hold bones together. That's what they do. They connect bones, all right? What do muscles do?
They make me look good at the gym.
Okay, they do that, all right. Muscles move bones, okay? Ligaments hold bones together, muscles move bones, okay? So ligaments are extremely well innervated. And the reason they are, I want to ask you why. The reason they are is because they help show our body, our brain, where our body is in space and time. So when we bend down, we know we're bending down looking at the floor because our ligaments are being stretched and they're sending messages to the brain that we're bending our head, okay? So ligaments are really important for proprioception, balancing, walking, things like that. So when a ligament is torn, it heals with scar tissue. So like a pile of toothpicks that are just thrown down randomly. So let's see. So here's pre-injury. Here's a normal tissue. Here's a tissue that's been injured. That's how it begins to heal. Then you have all this fibrotic scarring in there. So the problem with that is that when you injure yourself and you don't do anything for it, you just let it heal, what happens is that scar tissue is a lot more pain sensitive. It's a lot weaker than the original tissue, so you can get re-injured easier. So with laser and chiropractic care, you can at least reduce some of this. You can't necessarily reduce all of it, but you can definitely reduce some of that scar tissue. So here's another type of injury. Ligaments stretch and deform over time due to bad posture, okay? So it's called ligamentous creep. Research is now showing that for every millimeter in reduction of forward head carriage, there's a measurable change in what we call neural integration, in hand-eye coordination. So, so the more your head is forward, the less hand-eye coordination you have. We have really good studies on that. By the way, that study was done by a chiropractor up in Boise, Idaho, who's published around 400 papers now. He's one of the most published authors in PubMed. So forward head translation causes loss of hand-eye coordination and increases falls. So current statistics show that 42% of adults over 55 years of age in our society will die as a result of complications of falling. Those are pretty major. Now you probably see some of that in your line of work, don't you?
I see it all the time.
Yeah, you see it all the time. So that is why I'm constantly on my patients to do their neck exercises, okay? Because we're trying to pull the head back over the shoulders so you're not doing this and losing balance and hand-eye coordination. So here's another question I have for you. Why do people require hip and knee replacements? Why do some hips and knees wear out at different rates? Why is that? Anybody? You ever thought about that? Have you ever heard an orthopedic surgeon say, hey, I just want to tell the world how to avoid a hip and knee replacement? Ever heard that? I never have. Okay? So we're going to talk about that. How do we do that? Why is this? Why do people require hip and knee replacements? Anybody?
Because they're ligaments and they're, the cushion, they bone on bone,
That deteriorates because
It does? But why would one knee deteriorate and the other one be okay?
I don't know.
Anybody? How about an imbalance in posture, postural imbalance, okay? So first thing I check when new patient comes in my office, I check posture. You know, if somebody's leaning like this, you think this side is going to wear out faster than this side? Yeah, it is, okay? So postural weight imbalance really does matter over time. Now, it may not matter, you know, for 5 years, but if you walk more on one side than the other side, it'll matter in 20 years. Okay, so that's one reason. What corrects that? Chiropractic care. So what's the other, there's two other reasons that we need hip and knee replacements, that joints wear out faster, in addition to having abnormal or bad posture. What would those other two things be?
I'd say if you work, like if you some people extenuate themselves when they're working all the time repeatedly.
Yeah, repeated injury,
Yeah.
okay, repeated stress. That's a good answer. That wasn't what I was thinking of, but that's true. That's a true statement. How about high inflammation diets?
I was going to say diet.
Okay, so what's a high inflammation diet? It's what most of you ate over Christmas. That's what it is.
A lot of sugar.
Yeah, lots of sugar, lots of white flour, sugar, processed foods. So if you have a joint that's being stressed because of weight imbalance and you're eating a high inflammation diet, it's going to make that joint wear out faster. Okay? What's a low inflammation diet? Nobody knows?
Lots of fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, fruits, vegetables, fish, chicken, good protein. That's a low inflammation diet, okay? There's one other thing that I would say is lack of exercise. So when you're not exercising at all, you're not stressing your ligaments, you're not stressing your muscles, and your body just sort of sags over time. So you combine that with a high inflammation diet and bad posture, and you've got a recipe for a hip or knee replacement, okay? So I want to talk about x-rays for just a second, because there's a lot of misconceptions about what x-rays do and what they don't do. So have you ever heard that x-rays cause cancer, or x-rays can kill you, or whatever? Okay. Mm-hmm. So, that we learned that back in chiropractic school, and there was no real research on it. And the only research that was out there was research on the people in Nagasaki and Hiroshima that were exposed to high levels of radiation. But that has absolutely no bearing, is completely irrelevant when it comes to diagnostic x-rays. So according to the EPA, the average diagnostic x-ray delivered 0.04 rems to the body. According to the National Council on Radiation Protection, the annual limits are 50 rems a year. So you'd have to have 1,250 medical x-rays to get to that point. So I may send out somebody for 4 x-rays, and then 3 months later for another 4 x-rays. Is that going to hurt them? No, not at all. All right? Okay, what are we doing here? Okay, a dose of 100 REM all at once will cause nausea. That's 2,500 medical x-rays simultaneously. A CT scan is 30 REM or 750 x-rays. So if you have 2 CT scans in a year, you've gone over what your body should handle. So a CT scan is a lot of REM. A dose of 1,000 all at once will kill you, but over a period of several weeks. 3,000 REM is a typical dose to kill a thyroid tumor, but it's very, very concentrated on the tumor. The whole body is not being exposed. So I want you to understand that, because I have patients that have been taught, that have been ingrained that x-rays are harmful. They're not harmful. Diagnostic x-rays, you have to have a lot of them. to be harmed. All right? So important point number 3, caring for your body and your health is something you do at certain moments and not at other moments. I would say that we render care to our bodies all the time, every second. So anybody here of Hans Selye? He's the one that developed that whole theory of stress and what stress does to the body. What he said was stressful thoughts and emotional upsets causes cancer to grow faster. Okay, so you're constantly stressed, anger, and that will that concept was he talked about that in the 40s and 50s. He got a lot of blowback on that. Today it's accepted that the thoughts that we keep can accelerate the pace at which disease takes over, or good thoughts can accelerate the process, or slow down the disease process, or help us heal. So Hans Selye said, adopting the right attitude can convert negative stress into positive one. Reiki Hamer was a German physician in the early 1980s who produced absolute scientific proof that every cancer has a negative emotional origin, and specific diseases have specific emotional traumas associated with them. So here's a few of them. I just put lung disease is associated with grief or sorrow, stomach and small intestine with indigestible anger, and liver is starvation of love. Now, he did that for every organ in the body, and he actually found spots on MRIs of the brain that correlated with that in different parts of the brain. He also got persecuted. He was a German physician, German Medical Society pulled his license for a while because this was not standard medicine. So we render care to ourselves by the beverages we choose to drink, whether we choose to exercise or not, the food we choose to eat, how much we chew our food, which I don't do a very good job at, I'll tell you that right now. Whether we smoke cigarettes, whether we drink to extreme, whether we have limited sugar or too much sugar, whether we consume artificial sweeteners, which are known to damage nervous system function. So are we rendering care to our body every living and breathing second? What about when we sleep? Are we rendering care to our body when we sleep? Okay. So how much we sleep, how well we sleep. Okay, sleep's really important. But what about the thoughts we have in our head when we go to sleep? You know, what does the Bible say about anger? Don't let the sun go down on your wrath. So anybody ever gone to sleep mad? I have. I don't like it. I haven't done that very often.
I haven't been to bed.
But I don't think it's very good for you, okay? I guess if you're married, you have, right? Yeah.
I haven't been to bed in 4 years.
That's pretty good. So lifetime care is not a choice. It's the choice is the quality of care that we're going to engage in. So the friend who says, are you still going back to that chiropractor? Actually, the question should be, are you continuing to make greater improvement in the type of care that you're rendering to yourself? So we're going to go through these slides here. Okay, point number 4 that I want to make. My back pain and health issues should be able to be corrected quickly with just a few adjustments. I've heard that argument before. I had a 90-something-year-old man call into my office once, and he wanted to be correct. He wanted to be fixed in one visit. You know, and I mean, I told him, tell him to call another office, okay? I can't fix a 90-year-old. I mean, he says, you know, when I was young, they used to be able to fix you in one visit. You go in once or twice and you get me fixed. Well, you know, that was when you were 20, when people ate better, they exercised more. You're only 20 years old, you didn't have all that degeneration. So can a lifetime of slips and falls, auto accidents, no matter how insignificant, bad posture, I mean, look at all the people looking at their phones, looking at their tablets, poor diet, significant stress, be corrected in a few days or weeks? You can't do it. You can't fix it. Not in that period of time. You know, if you gain 100 pounds over a period of 10 to 12 years, how long is it going to take you to lose that weight? It's going to take a while, and you'll have a lot of work to do. Well, it's the same way with this. If you have all these insults to your body, you can't fix that overnight. It just takes time. What about rendering care to children? Children respond extremely well to chiropractic, and what I notice is that kids that see their parents adjusted, they want to get adjusted as well. So my request to you, as your doctor of chiropractic, is to take care of your spine and nervous system, to do your spinal work exercises, and to be cognizant of how you're working, of what your workplace ergonomics are. Let's see. Now, some people have a habit of going from health tragedy to health tragedy. Do you know people like that? I do. I know several people like that. You know, that's a form of lifetime care, okay? That's not what I would want, okay? And if somebody like that would be very frustrated in my office, because we encourage lifetime care based on wisdom and deliberately engaging certain habits that are healthy and produce health in the body. Our society gives us a lot of confusing messages on health and nutrition. Would you, everybody agree on that? I mean, anybody ever seen, like, you've read two experts who have all the credentials that are saying the exact opposite on health? I've seen it many times, okay? That's why I do these classes, because I want to clarify a lot of this for you, and continue to help you learn to care about yourself a lot more effectively. I'm not necessarily here to treat how you feel, but to make sure your brain and spinal column are operating at the greatest capacity so you can be your best. That doesn't mean you're never going to be in pain again. You're never going to have the thing that you came in with. But it does mean that you're going to age slower, you're going to repair more effectively, and if you do have pain, you're going to get rid of it faster. So, okay. So, what if you have a medical crisis? What do you do then?
Pray.
Okay, that's a good idea. Okay. So my thing is this, is that if you have a medical crisis, you have to take pharmaceuticals. I would say this to the doctor: look, I know this is the best, worst thing for me right now. What can I do? Teach me what I can do so you can get me off these drugs as soon as possible. I'm not saying nobody should ever take drugs. That would be kind of ignorant on my part. But if you do have to take them, I think a fair question for your physician is, how can you get me off this as fast as possible so I don't have to take them? Okay? So I'm going to tell you two things that all pharmaceuticals do to the body that are not good. Number one is they, every time you take a drug,
Wireless color.
you know, grab that crumble. I don't know why somebody calls my office at 7 in the evening.
Color.
So, number one thing that drugs do is they leach essential nutrients out of your body. Every time you take a pharmaceutical, I could show you in the lab manual in the back every class of drug and what nutrients they leach out of your body. Every single drug does that. Here's another thing that every drug does. Every drug alters your microbiome. Okay, your microbiome is the seed of your health. The gut bacteria, all drugs alter that. So I'm not saying you should never take drugs, just be cognizant of what they do. Okay, that's all I'm saying. All right, so does anybody have any questions? That's all I'm going to talk about tonight. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I've gone over?
I'm going to hit something on the brief last part of it. How long does it take usually the body to get rid of a pharmaceutical drug, usually? That you would say?
Depends on how healthy your liver is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't have a healthy liver, it's going to take longer.
Yeah.
If your liver's healthy, Because all your liver detoxifies anything you put in your body that's not, that it doesn't recognize as something it can use to heal. So, you know, how healthy is your liver? Okay. Anybody else have any questions? No questions. Okay. So in 2 weeks, we have a talk on core muscle exercises that a friend of mine who runs a gym, is a health studio, is going to come in and talk about how to exercise your core muscles. I think we're going to have a lot of people here for that, so come early if you want to see. Okay, and so thank you for coming tonight. I hope that you will spread the word about health to people, about chiropractic, about nutrition, about how to take care of yourself, and what taking care of yourself really entails. And many of you know people who aren't healthy. I'd be happy to look at them, be happy to evaluate them, do a subluxation check. We do that at our expense. And if they do have a problem that we can help, I'll let them know. If we can't help them, I'll make sure they get to someplace that they can be helped. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see many of you on January 20th for our core muscle exercise class that I won't be doing, but I'll be here because I want to learn from this guy myself. Thanks. That's all we're going to